Chewing the fat and talking hotel tech. It's time for Two Smart Fellas.
Right. So let's start. Now, I want to know you. I know a little bit from 2010 after we started working together, and I also know a little bit from what we've shared over hot wings and beers, whatever. But just for people who don't know, you're born in Germany?
Born and bred in Germany, yeah.
Whereabouts?
A small town called Kleve, which has about 50,000 inhabitants. We have more cows and sheep than that.
Okay.
It's beautiful to grow up until you're 18. Okay. And really good for retirement. In between.
Okay. That sounds like, okay. So, and are you speaking Altdeutsch in Kleve, or what kind of part of Germany are you from?
We speak a dialect, but we're speaking normal German.
Okay.
And then we can speak or understand Holland, because it's literally my city, Holland.
Yes. Actually, so we are the Dutch border.
Very close to the Dutch land.
So if I say watermeloen, you probably know that means watermelon in Dutch.
Yes.
Okay, cool. And so did you always, while you were at high school, before you finished high school, did you always know I'm going to work in hospitality somehow? Or what did you want to do? What did you want to do when you were through high school, if you even knew?
I had no idea. I literally had no idea until about 12 weeks prior, about 3 months prior.
Yep.
And I saw this little booklet, and it had this like very tiny thing on the right-hand side saying like, study in Switzerland, hotels. And I was like, I like hotels. I've stayed in them. That was always fun.
Switzerland also had lots of cows and sheep as well, probably.
To be fair, I didn't have an idea. I was so desperate. I even told my dad I'm going to join him in his business, and he said, no way.
Oh, okay. And so then before you finished high school, you thought Swiss hospitality. And
for no other reason than, I mean, I was a mediocre student, right? I passed by with I kind of took the working smart, not hard, very, very literally, to say like, okay, this is a benchmark that I need to pass high school with. Yeah. Let me just get here. And I used sports in my final exam. So that meant that I was literally guaranteed already 90% of all the scores that I required.
Okay. Nice. That sounds very, very familiar. Very similar, actually. So you went from high school to Swiss hotel school.
Yes. So
which one?
It's called Cedar Ritz Colleges in Le Bouvray, and they only had about 2-3 back then, but they had the global combination with the US, and they also had one in Sydney.
Mainly hotel school.
Correct.
Okay. And was a 3-year study program?
Yes, normally if you want to do your BA, you need 3 years, but after 2 years I gave up. So I did my diploma, and then I wanted to do my management training.
Okay. And then, so when you did management training, was that during your studies? You went to work for some hotels?
Yeah, no, so I went to the US and did a full-blown management training for Accor. So I had a couple of things available. It was either food and beverage at Hyatt in Colorado, in Aspen.
Yeah.
Then I had a conference and events in North Carolina. Mm-hmm. Amazing money, but 120-hour week.
Of course.
Then the Aspen one was very F&B centric, and I can't ski, so it was pretty pointless for me. And then the worst out of the bunch was front office in Washington DC.
Okay, at an Accor property.
Yeah, at a property that just opened literally 3 months prior.
And was it a Novotel or Sofitel?
No, it was a Sofitel, and it's different it was one of the first Sofitels that was the 5-star Sofitel, so not the, before Novotel and Sofitel were kind of the same, and then they put it up there.
And is that when you were using Landmark or using different systems?
No. Back then I used Fidelio Suite 8. Okay. And I loved it because you could like send messages and emails to each other within the system. That was the coolest thing. But yeah, it was front office, and I learned a lot about professional attitude and You got to clean your hands and show me your hands. And is your tie properly made? Come on, I'll show you how to make a tie. And you've got dirt here. You got to go and change again. So it was hardcore
luxury.
By the way, we were drilled.
French hospitality, which in my opinion, the French do hospitality very, very well. I'm not a big hotel loyalty man, but the one loyalty program that I use more than anything else is the Accor. I just like French style of hospitality as a general comment. Yeah. And so when you were at Sofitel, then you were in Washington, D.C., what happened after that?
So then I fell deeply in love and decided to quit my management program and move back to Europe. But I equally had a job offer in the Maldives.
Oh, okay.
And I'm so grateful to that person. I can't remember her name anymore. She said, Fabian, would love to take you, but I want you to think tonight and have a couple of drinks and think if you can really live on an island that you can walk around in 40 minutes.
Yes. Yeah.
And there will be nothing else. The next island will be 45 minutes by boat, and you will not get off the island. You will see the same people over and over and over and over. Yeah. And I called her the next day and said, don't think so.
And no regrets, no regrets about that.
No. And then I flew back to Europe and I went to London.
Okay.
So, and I was so dumb. I didn't know London. So I stayed here. My first meeting was here. Yes. My second meeting was here. Okay. My third meeting was in Gatwick. And then I had to go all the way to the north.
Okay.
So I had an interview at the Hilton Metropole.
Okay.
1,500 bedrooms. And I'm not kidding you. Throughout that interview, and we had it in front of the reception, 10 receptionists, a line of about 60 meters for like an hour and a half.
Okay.
And I was just like, after the interview, I was like, nah.
It's like a factory.
And literally like a ba-bum, 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 ba-bum. Yeah. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? All you got to learn is check in, check out. And it's a little bit like McDonald's. Loved working in McDonald's, but wouldn't do it for a lifetime.
Sure.
So then ended up at a Holiday Inn.
Okay, Holiday Inn. Whereabouts in London?
Gatwick, Crawley. So I had the interview and she called me back 15 minutes later and said, offer you the job right now. And nice. I was young and I was like, okay, I take it.
Rooms division, front office?
Front office, so I was reception supervisor. I applied for they tell you in college that you come out of college and you're directly a manager, GM. And I applied for all of these roles and I got denied. And then one person again was nice enough to write back and say listen, I know they tell you can directly go for the front desk manager or rooms division manager, but here's the fact, you have no experience in managing people. Right?
Exactly.
It's not about your qualification. It's you have no idea how to deal under pressure, how to run a hotel, so on and so forth. So start a bit lower and then you can really go faster.
You should go faster. Exactly. Yeah.
Because of the educational background, you will go faster because you understand the figures, you understand the wider implications. Exactly. So you can jump, but it's an essential part. And at Crawley, then I got headhunted to go to the Crown Plaza London Heathrow. And I went over there and they wanted me to do club lounge. And I went in there and it was the opposite of the Hilton. There was nobody for 3 hours. Literally. And I had this jumper on and I didn't know it had a huge stain on the back and nobody told me. So I said at the end, okay, sorry, but not interested because I'm going to be bored out of my mind. And it's 500 bedroom property.
In club lounge.
In club lounge. So, and then they called me the next day and said, oh yeah, we agree you're not suited for that role, but do you want to be assistant or duty manager, what they call it? And the duty manager is essentially running all the operations throughout the day from a
guest service.
From a guest service kind of perspective across all departments. And then you get the HODs, the head of departments involved when required. And then you're also the night manager, and it was a 500 bedroom property.
Good.
Right next to Heathrow. Yes. And she wanted to interview me again because she wanted to see different capabilities. And I said, well, would love that, but how about you come to me? Because I have to take the bus or the train into London. You have a car, come over. So we had an interview at Sainsbury.
Oh, okay. In
while
Sainsbury's.
while doing my grocery shopping.
Nice.
And then she offered me the job then and there, and then I moved over.
Yes.
And lived in Gatwick, worked in Heathrow.
Yeah.
That was fine, but an amazing time. I mean, I was blessed that I learned so much about front desk in a big environment.
Yeah.
Very structured environment.
Mm-hmm.
And then kind of slid into revenue management.
Yeah, so that's the part I really want to focus on. Because I know IHG, or people who are ex-IHG, they have a very good reputation for revenue management in-house training. Did you do the in-house training with IHG?
Yeah, so there's different things. So I started when revenue management, we had to fight, my boss had to fight for the title.
Okay.
Because it was reservations manager. That's
Yes.
it, right?
Yeah.
So I got my assistant reservations manager. My boss kind of was a bit lazy, so I had to do forecasting, pricing.
What year are we talking now, roughly?
2004?
2004, okay. Okay, so revenue management really not commonly accepted.
No. And
okay.
I slid into it because as a night manager, it's Heathrow, right? Don't forget.
Yes. Yes.
Hotel runs at 98% occupancy for the year. I would pick up 50 reservations between 8 p.m. and midnight. And I would pick them up at 300 pounds, right?
Wow.
So I made a lot of money in the evenings.
Yeah.
I sold meeting rooms as bedrooms. Wow.
Wow. Yeah, nice.
Back then I thought that was a good idea. Now I say like, oh my God, how could I have done that? I walked people from Heathrow to Gatwick.
Yes.
Which is a 45-minute drive. But the fact was the only guy that answered my emails was a guy called Gower. And he was the area revenue manager for IHG back then. I had no idea who this guy was. I only knew he would reply to my emails at 2 a.m.
Oh.
And so I got into reservations, and then very quickly I did my 6-month stint. Then the GM wanted me to become revenue manager at the property.
Yes.
But then Gower said, no, let's give him 2 properties. And I'm not giving you really bad properties. I'm giving you where you have to learn how to take the cream at the top.
Yes.
So I had 2 properties. From 2, I went to 6, from 6 to about 12. And then I pendled in between 6 and 12, always in 9 to 12 months. And that's when the training kicked in.
Yes.
So you have the revenue, I don't know what it's called right now, foundation course.
Yes.
And then when you pass that, you will get invited to a revenue management master course. And the master course is
in-house training, IHG.
No. It's like you have to go to, is it Basingstoke or somewhere? You have to drive somewhere, then you have this holodex training, then you have a revenue management training. It's like a 1 or 2 day course, and it's in-house IHG.
Yeah, got it.
And then if you're on the top and your scores are very good, then you get invited to the master's course. And the master's course is in a fancy city, and mine was in Athens. So they pay for my flight.
Wow.
You stayed in Intercon. You literally then have 1 week.
Yes.
And you learn this little about analytics. You learn this much about impacting and influencing, emotional intelligence, so on and so forth. So that was really, that helped me most of it, because I know that I understood the analytics, but I really needed help on the thing of how do you communicate, how do you tell the story, so on and so forth.
Yes. And so holodex, you mentioned, that's the IHG CRS before, right? Holodex?
Correct. Yeah.
And was Hero the RM system?
We moved from Hero to Perform, and we were the first hotels that implemented price optimization with Perform.
Okay. So tell me now, in 2017, how you have a lot more experience in hotel revenue management systems, what actually was Perform doing? What data was it gathering? What outputs was it providing? How many inputs did you have to provide? What was it doing?
It does what a revenue management system does today, but it did that 12 years ago, right?
Okay.
But we were not ready to actually get it.
Okay.
Plus, there were certain things like we tried to be cheeky. So the system would work against us in certain circumstances. Okay. In the sense of that when you have LRA accounts, last room availability accounts, So if Perform pushed up the price, my corporate is here, and you kind of go up with the price, but the corporates could still book.
Okay.
So it wasn't in my best interest to actually raise that price, because all what would happen is people would buy at the corporate rate.
Right. Okay.
So you would put this kind of hurdle rates above your bar rate so that you could sell bed and breakfast rates, which are technically not LRA binding, because LRA is based on a room only rate, not on a bed and breakfast rate.
Okay. Yes.
So we bypassed that by saying, okay, LRA is closed out because I don't have a bar rate available, but you can book my breakfast.
Yes.
No, it was very complicated. It was, we switched on the price optimization, would change prices literally every 10 minutes.
Oh, okay.
And then we changed the back, because the optimization looked at all the comma, all the numbers behind the commas, and essentially said, if it's like 10 behind the comma and a 1 goes up, then new price. Right.
Okay.
And it became really annoying when it was at the 5-1 or 4-9.
Okay.
It would pendle in between those. And so we just made it to round numbers in order to avoid those horrible fluctuations. Because
And so he was doing a demand forecast, and then within that forecast, price recommendations which you would accept or override or change. Is that right?
But you know what? We wouldn't use it for that. Back in the day, I'm telling you, it was, you would see it as a threat. You would see it as a
threat to your role as RM.
We would still do the forecasting, right? Plus, don't forget, because it was just a system that you didn't do anything with, it wasn't trained, it wasn't nurtured.
Okay.
So we would never run any kind of comparisons around, hey, should it be this or this, or do you need to upgrade what segment? Because you could set it by segments and then by standard room types, and by higher rated room types. And then you used it to override hurdle rates. So it would give you, similar to the old ideas hurdle rate that it would use. So we used it for yielding purposes, but essentially it wasn't. I would use it differently today than I would do it back then.
Okay. And so that system, Perform, will be integrated to the Holodeck system as well in terms of pricing?
Yes, Opera.
Okay.
That was back in the day, it was a two-way Oxy interface.
Okay.
Real time.
Okay. Yeah, very good. And so at what point did you realize, was it when you got selected to go to the masterclass in Athens? At what point do you realize, hey, I like this RM stuff? Is that when it was, when you got flown to Athens and stayed at the Intercon? Or did you already know back on Heathrow days?
As a night manager, I already knew I didn't know the name for it, but I loved selling and buying and driving more revenue. It was a kick of it, but I would be a fanatic back then. I would check my rates every 10 minutes and go like, I picked up 10 rooms. I get really excited.
Nice.
And I had to do forecasting by segment and
and that's what you mentioned before. With Perform, you were saying you didn't use the system so much, but you did your forecasting. So were you doing that in Excel? How were you doing?
We used two versions. So we used, back in the day, it was called IBP, where you took Opera extracts and you put it into that system, and then you could forecast it and it would give you pace reporting and all of that stuff. But it was old. It was built on an Access database. So if I ran an on the books report, it took 45 minutes to run it. It was horrific. And then we moved into a clustered environment, and it was even worse, because then I had to hotspot on the hotel Wi-Fi to move over to a
different hotel.
Crazy.
Okay. And so when was your transition from hotels into hotel tech? Was it from IHG to Ideas, or what happened?
So IHG loves change, but they changed a bit too much. And I was just thinking, you know what? I had, like, with Gower being my boss, I had the crop of the crop from a perspective of personal development, how he pushes you, how he, hi Gower, by the way.
Is it Ian Gower?
No, Gower 10. So he was extremely good at pushing you and driving your capabilities forward. You might not like it, but you can't fault the end result. And if you want to learn and if you want to grow, it's a bit like those kung fu movies that you see. You get beaten up and afterwards you're a kung fu master, right?
Yes.
So that I'm externally grateful for.
Yes, yes.
So I then decided, you know what, now I'm getting a new boss. This is not going to work. So let me check a different avenue. And then I applied for ideas, and I applied for 2 jobs.
Yeah. So I did advertising for people, yeah?
Yeah, trainer and a consultant role.
Okay.
So I did both.
Okay.
And
trainer of the V5 or which system?
Yeah, training, just EMEA trainer.
Okay.
So, but the difference was massive as far as salary is concerned.
Different in a good way.
Yeah, so consulting role was like 5 or 6 grand more a year.
Okay. So that was
back then, if you look at that, it was kind of, I mean, you know it yourself, you were a receptionist, somebody offers you $100 more and you think you're the richest person in the world.
Of course.
But I had to do a training at 7 o'clock in the morning, and they said you can train on anything. And I really loved making cocktails, so I made a cocktail in the morning. And they both don't drink alcohol. So that was a bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
And then
they wanted to analyze your ability to train, no matter what the topic.
Correct. And then I went for the other one.
Yes.
For the other interview, and it was right next to my house. Klaus Kohlmeier was in town from the US at that point in time. My boss Paul was then at this time, and then from Maryland, and then we had discussions directly, and it worked. It worked out fine. I started on my first day. I arrived, and Paul was like, "Oh, sorry, gotta go." And literally, like within 5 minutes, I didn't see Paul for like a week. Okay. And I was sitting there in this office by myself, going like, "Okay."
In the UK.
In the UK.
Okay. Marlow or somewhere else?
No. First, it was it was this little barn somewhere around, I forgot where. And then we moved to Marlow. And Marlow, we then moved to the SaaS environment, and that was really cool.
And now, you know that I know the difference between, let's say, a trainer role and consulting, but explain to people who don't know, what is the role of a ideas consultant versus somebody training how to use the ideas system?
Well, the training is literally just, you want them to be able to use the system.
Okay.
Right.
Logging in, pressing different buttons.
Yeah, you give them some kind of an overview or a training in regards to what is revenue management. But the consultative role is more of setting a strategy and executing against that. So it's regardless, I always looked at it from a system agnostic point of view, to say, okay, if you're not ready for a revenue management system, let's not put one in, because there's a lot of stuff that you need to get in before. And by the way, you will already make money along the way. But I'm telling you right now, if you go here, you are actually going to lose money. Because you're not ready for it. You're not going to enjoy it.
Yeah, and I think those are tough conversations sometimes, right? If the hotel says, we want to put it in an RM system, and the actual answer is, let's get the culture, let's get the RM understanding in place first before we apply technology. That's not always an easy discussion to have, right? Yeah.
Well, I always believed in buy-in. I was never short of a confrontation. I learned the good old sales hurt and rescue technique.
Okay.
So you give them a bit of pain of what is wrong, and then I can give you the medicine.
Okay. Yes. Tough love.
Tough love. But at the end of the day, consulting only works if you show benefit for the client and if they see benefit out of it. Right. Yes. And it's not for me to get the glory, right? The glory will be they calling me again to do another project.
Exactly.
Otherwise, it's for them. And you and I, we have done that numerous times quite successfully.
That's right.
Do
you have a favorite consulting role project? I have one where you and I were involved, but do you have a favorite one?
I like either the Sunway or the Federal one.
I was going to say Sunway, yeah.
Yeah, I like the Sunway one, but I also like the Federal one.
Okay, yes.
I think my favorite one with ideas was Blue Sun, because we did an audit, and the audit led to a 12 months mentoring. The mentoring led to an implementation of 12 systems. equally for Lindner hotels. Mm-hmm. So we did an audit. After the audit, they put go ahead for all the systems.
Yes.
So there is a if you do it properly, consulting can really drive it forward. But yes. My point is always, I moved away from some of those gigs because I said, there's nothing really I can do for you. You're doing fine. It's a bit of fine tuning, but call me if you need to ping an idea off, but it's not a chargeable thing.
Yeah.
And it might be the wrong thing for people to say that, but I still believe that there's a certain amount of time where you can do the consultative approach,
make an impact,
and you can make an impact, and then they have to be self-sufficient.
Yes.
And you kind of transition from giving you a strategy to more of a mentor advisory role.
Yes.
And you kind of phase it out. I mean, I built a mentoring program for ideas.
Oh, yes.
Which was most probably the biggest thing that I sold, because I said, I don't need to do revenue management for you because you will not learn anything.
Yes.
But how about I train your people to communicate, to do the analytics, to look at the figure and challenge them, not to give them the answer, but to challenge them and use their mind. Good. And there's a couple of really good success stories of people. One guy now runs Valamar.
Oh, yes.
Maestra.
Valamar, are they in Croatia as well?
Croatia, Maestra. The other guy went on to be big hit in Dubai. Then we have one that has just opened up their own consultancy in South Africa. There's a lot of positives that came out.
Yes.
For people to actually say, okay, it actually benefited me from a mentorship. Now you and I, we talked about it a lot. Sometimes when you look at the workforce, you don't need to employ somebody with the same skill set as yours.
Yeah,
because exactly. You have the experience, but what you want is those people that are like SpongeBob SquarePants and sponges and can really take it on and then exactly. become a diamond afterwards.
Yeah, I remember you explained to me this, let's say, recruitment or HR type of thought where A people hire Bs, B people hire Cs, and basically you're then constantly recruiting people with less and less ability from that sort of perspective. And I always thought, hey, that's right. If A people hire As, and we're always looking to replace ourselves or looking to grow the team beyond protecting ourselves in our role. I always thought that was an optimal way of looking at recruitment.
Yeah, see it this way. When you start a job, there's the Peter principle of saying you promote people to inefficiency. The way I was lucky in my professional life is that I was sink or swim kind of thing, scenario. And I was put into situations where I didn't know the full job, right? But what you want to achieve is your primary role in your job should be to be able to sit all day, drink coffee, read the newspaper, and everything works. Then you have built a team that can self-sustain and you can move on because that team now can have a new person taking your role, taking it to the next level.
Okay.
And that has worked with me successfully, that I know that by the time I'm getting bored and everything is working and I really just can cut down on the hours, then I can move on because essentially the team is drilled. Either they leave, which is great, because then they're not the right people, or they stick with you, and then if I call them back 5 years later, they will happily work with us again.
And what would you say to the 19-year-old Fabian, or those people who are in hotel school right now, or maybe early in their hotel career in F&B, or somewhere not traditionally a source for revenue managers? What would you say to them? Is it only a role for somebody who's good with numbers, or where do they start? Where do they go to find the right mentor or the right education? What's your advice there?
Oh, tough
big
one.
Question, I know. Because the big chains, IHG is one of them, Accor is another one, do have in-house RM training. I don't think any of the universities, the hotel schools today really do something that they can proudly say, this is revenue management, distribution, digital marketing curriculum. I don't think any of them can attest to this.
It's super important. Still kind of a small one within rooms division or something like that. I had one class, one 45-minute class on yield management in college.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, it's hospitality. 80% of the people that I studied with have left.
Okay.
Right. And you will have to go through the crap in the beginning where you have to pull night shifts. But if you're a person who cannot bear the thought of being away from your family, travel the world, and see what's out there, then don't do hospitality, because what you will do is you'll find that hotel close to you, then you do work there, and then you kind of live and do that. There's nothing wrong with it, but hospitality is a travel one. And you gain a lot of value. I mean, I've worked in 27 countries now, project-wise, right? You most probably have done equally, if not more, right? It gives you a value because you understand different cultures and you understand how people function in those areas. So for them is let the world be your oyster. I mean, literally, like, have your roots at home.
Yes.
My parents always told me, what did they tell me? We have to give you two things: roots, so you know where you belong, and wings, so you can see the world.
Nice. I like that.
And I have the same philosophy. I say, like, you're as close to me as you are from a relation. I mean, you and I have a long-standing relationship, and yet we have never been in the same place.
No, that's right.
Exactly. From a living perspective. I mean, the closest we were was 7 hours by flight.
Singapore and Sydney, exactly.
Closest we ever were, but it's go out. If you're 19, you will go through the crap, but enjoy your 20s. Let somebody else pay for you to see the world. Go to different hotels. Go to different countries. Love that you're young, you're dynamic. You will find your way. And then don't be afraid. I mean, half of the jobs weren't even created by the time I mean, solutions architects. If you look at solutions architects, didn't exist 5 years ago.
Pre-sales engineer.
Pre-sales. Who's a pre-sales engineer, right? So those.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of going to different countries, exploring different nationalities, making your footprint, and then decide what you want to do. If you're in F&B, I always have to tell you, if you're in food and beverage, you have to love food and beverage, because you will never get away from guests.
Yes.
You'll always be front facing, right?
Yes.
Front desk, you kind of can go to the back, but you're still a bit front desk. Back of house areas, finance, reservations, and then moving over to tech. I mean, I love tech because we're setting, essentially, we're not only reacting, but we're also setting trends for the industry. Yes. And you're right on the pulse, and just don't do the mistake and say, oh, I'm 20 right now. I live with my parents and now I'm an entrepreneur. Right? No, you're not. Chances are you're unemployed. So do something, and if the right idea come up, work it, but have a job. Right.
And now you are co-founder and co-host of the Two Smart Fellas podcast.
Yes.
And I remember when I talked about it's end of year, let's do an interview. You said, okay, 15 minutes. I knew I would need more than 15 minutes. I think it's half an hour now, which I'm very happy about. But I am getting looks from my wife and her mother and my kids. But what I wanted to finish off with, if you don't mind, is we've got a few exciting things coming up in 2018.
Oh, yeah.
And some of those include revenue management, education and training. We don't need to talk about it right now, but I'm super excited for what you and I have talked about in terms of where we take this baby, where we take this thing.
Yes, absolutely. I think it's time for both of us to give back to the industry. And we want to look at for 2018 from a commercial perspective, and really allow anyone and everyone to get some benefit out of it. So you might not want one of the sessions because it's very rudimentary and gives you the basics. But then equally, we bring in experts from other things. Like I'm super excited to learn way more about meta, for example, right? So bring in a meta subject. Or I really would love to know more about some of the BI tools out there and what is happening.
Absolutely.
And really trying to give back something to the industry where you can go online, look at it, and still interact with us through our weekly show,
Yes.
And we're getting requests now through of things that they want to talk about.
Exactly. And we're up to 59 subscribers now.
Oh my God, please.
Nicely,
40 more. We have 2 more days. 2 more days. 40. Come on, people.
Exactly. So, you know what, even if we stayed 59, I'm happy that there are at least 59 people that thought about clicking subscribe so that, it, you know, when we pump out these podcasts, which we aim to do weekly, that they're interested enough to see our content hit their inbox and their video stream. So, Fabian, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you as well. Say hi to your wife. I'm sure you're in the same boat as me when I had my 9 p.m. call with you on a Friday night, and my wife was literally like giving me the fury.
I know. So thank you for your understanding. I would love to do the interview now, but you know what it's like. I already had. No, it's all good. We're going to Glasgow for Hogmanay for New Year's Eve, and looking forward to that. So my love to the kids and the family. Enjoy.
Same to you.
And see you next week. I'll check you in a little bit.
See you next week. Cheers.
See you, mate.
Bye.
Ciao. Bye.